we're talking about identity only right now. We're not talking about trans people, okay? So
Well, that's what you're
try to
saying.
keep
That's
your
the entire
head
last
in one
5 minutes
argument
of
at a
your
time,
thing
okay? We'll get to
has been
trans people,
that.
I promise. But
Quit the pretentious
if
act, dude.
no,
It's
I'm not
fucking
going to quit the
ridiculous.
pretentious act. You're acting like a
It's
fucking buffoon,
absolutely
okay? And I'm
ridiculous.
okay
It's
acting
very
pretentious.
condescending, Hunter.
Yes, I'm condescending to stupid
yes, you
people
are
like
being very
you.
condescending.
Yeah, I know.
It's because you can't make a reasonable argument.
Because
Your
you won't
argument
let
is,
me.
I think it in my mind.
Hello.
Jack, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing?
All right.
So,
All right.
were
I
you
think
the
I was
guy?
a little.
Hold on. Were you the guy in my chat who said that I was bread tube, or were you the one who said that I was picking on a girl?
I was the one that said bread tube, and I got kicked from your server for saying men can't transform into women before I could get on. So there's that.
Okay, well, I can talk to my mods about having you unbanned, but I mean, if we want to get technical, that is pretty much an unfactual statement.
Is it unfactual, really? So men can transform into women. Please explain how this is possible, Hunter.
Well, I don't think that it's fair to say transform into women. Are you using like a voice altercation thing?
No, I just have a voice for radio and a face for one as well.
Okay, I mean, it kind of sounds like you're using like a voice altering thing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I was just wondering, but yeah. So the first thing is just recognizing the difference between sex and gender.
Okay.
So when you say men and when you say women, those are gendered terms. Okay.
Okay.
So what that means is that man and woman are forms of identification that are socially constructed.
So LGBTQ pseudoscience, basically, is what you're saying.
No, that's not pseudoscience whatsoever. It's actually scientific
pseudoscience,
consensus on this issue. Yeah.
So how many genders are there, Hunter? How many?
Right now we recognize
56?
about 2 genders, but there doesn't have to be 2 genders since it's socially constructed. So if you want, I can walk you through this a little bit. So let's talk about
is race a socially constructed construct as well?
The way in which we categorize races, yeah, but
It is,
I mean,
right?
there's more of a like biological reason, obviously, why people have skin color the way that it is. That's not socially constructed, but the way that we categorize race is socially constructed. So we don't need to get off on the tangent there, though. We can just talk about the sex and gender thing. So,
Okay.
do you recognize that sex is referring to the biological characteristics of people, right?
I know that there's men and there's women, right? And outside of that, you're talking about an extreme anomaly. The only thing you could even be referring to in regards to anybody who has a legitimate claim of calling themselves transgender at all would be hermaphrodites and people who have Klinefelter syndrome. And
So,
then we're
a couple
talking about
things
an
here is-
extremely small percentage of the
Hold on,
population
hold
at that.
Even if it was only one person who fit the definition of being intersex, that proves that the gender binary, or in this case, the sex binary, is not actually as effective
Okay,
as we
so
thought it
does
would.
Caitlyn Jenner have a legitimate claim to making this, even though Caitlyn Jenner does not have Klinefelter syndrome and is not
Hold on,
hermaphrodite?
we're going all over the place here. So let's back
No,
up.
I'm not going all over
Yes,
the
you are.
place.
Let's
You're,
back
you're
up.
making an argument saying that if there's one person that has it, that means 10 million people can claim it, even though they don't have the
No,
same
that's not what I
medical
was saying at all.
conditions that
Do you
that
want to?
one person has.
Do you want to be quiet and let me talk for a second?
Oh
So
yeah, go for it, man.
let's break down the difference between sex and gender. Okay.
Go.
So there is male and female, which refers to sex. That means penis, vagina, chromosomes, testosterone, estrogen, all of the things that are biological, right?
Okay.
So
Sure.
that's what sex is referring to, a biological, real component that is tangible.
Okay.
And then we have gender, which is the way in which you identify and express your identity, more or less. Now, I will grant you this. It is very common that most
and
people...
is that non-tangible then?
Hold on, let me explain. It's quite common that a man, someone who identifies as a man, dresses as a man, presents as a man, which, mind you, are all socially constructed things. It's common for that to heavily correlate with the male biology. So there's a lot of correlation there, which is part of the reason why it's confusing, but it's not a causal thing. So what that means is if you took somebody with a penis, put them in a padded room when they were first born, and let them grow up without any kind of interaction with society or social or the social world, do you think that this person with a penis would just grow up to naturally want to have their hair cut short, like the color blue, and want to wear suits?
So do I think if we remove somebody completely from society and put them in a total bubble that they're going to know anything? Probably not. They're
Well,
probably not going to know anything if you put them in a total vacuum.
Well, but
of
we're talking about
information.
somebody with a penis specifically, right? So you're more or less acknowledging exactly what I'm trying to prove here, which is that
No, you're making a really reaching argument is what you're doing.
no,
You're
I'm not.
saying,
It's
we'll put this person in a vacuum of
no, this
information.
okay.
And based on the fact that we can put somebody in a complete vacuum of information, that proves what I'm saying is true.
Okay, hold on. Let me send somebody else to the Discord.
It's a real false premise.
Hey,
man.
real thug, get in the Discord or get banned, cuck. All right. Anyway, so let me try to explain this to you again. I'm not saying, well, if you put somebody in a room, blah, blah, blah. The analogy that I'm laying out is to simply demonstrate that there is not a causal link between the socially constructed roles of gender and the biological factors at play. The
Here
point,
you go. Is Caitlyn Jenner a man or a woman?
Hold on.
Hunter?
the point that I am making is that if you have gender being socially constructed, which is men wear suits, men have short haircuts, men like the color blue, even some of the stuff that men need to be strong, men need to not show emotion, this kind of shit is socially constructed. And the point that I'm making with the padded room is that if you take somebody with a penis, they are not just going to grow up to naturally like the color blue. However, they will, if they grow up in a padded room, they will have testosterone, regardless, because there's a causal link there between the biology and the testosterone levels, right? But when we're talking about gender, since it's socially constructed, if you put somebody in a padded room and then they grew up in that padded room with without being exposed to society, they probably wouldn't just naturally want to wear suits and like the color blue. Does that make sense?
New age. No, this is new age pseudoscience, Hunter. You should know this.
Wait, this is not new age pseudoscience.
Yes, it is new age.
I'm not even making a scientific claim right now. I'm trying to lay out an analogy for you.
50 years ago, Hunter? Was it going on 1,000 years ago, Hunter? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. This is new age.
That's also not true. Wait, you realize you can look at trans people that existed back in the 1800s and before, right?
No, they're called drag queens.
No, there were people that actually had gender identities that were different from their biology back in the 1800s.
Oh, yes, they were, huh?
Yes.
Many of them. And they weren't drag queens. They weren't RuPaul's
their
Next
gender
Drag
identity
Queen.
was completely different. You can see non-binary people throughout history.
Gender identity. Okay, now does their gender identity mean that their actual sex was different? I mean, just because you identify as an attack helicopter, you're clearly not an attack helicopter. I mean, you're still a male or a female.
You're mixing up again the sex and gender thing. So, yes, if you identify as a woman and you have a penis, you would be biologically male, but your gender identity would be that of a woman.
So gender identity is a state of mind rather than not being an actual state of physical being.
Yes.
So it's mental.
No.
Not physical.
Wait. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a form of identity. Yeah.
It's mental, though, not physical. Physical characteristics, biology, chromosomes have nothing to do with it, and it's all purely mental.
Well, the biology aspect doesn't dictate whether or not they will identify as a man or a woman.
So you're a woman in your mind, but a man everywhere else in your body. Okay?
Well, no, because you would most likely be
no,
because it's not just in your mind. It's also that you're going to take steps to present as a woman in society as well. So it's true that in their mind is their identity.
I can go in drag and think in my mind I'm a woman, and that means that I'm a woman.
Do you sincerely identify as a woman?
I'm just asking the question. I'm not saying that I do. Of course I don't.
I mean, if you sincerely identify that you're a woman, then yeah. Because it's a form of identity.
Woman, right?
Because it's a form of identification. Similarly,
so if John Cena comes out tomorrow and says he wants to wrestle in the Divas division, and that he identifies as a woman,
you're moving all over the place, bro.
Then that's okay.
Hey,
you're totally fine with that.
Calm down.
He can identify. I'm totally calm.
You're jumping all over the place.
No,
we're not talking about sports. Okay, sports are an entirely different thing that are very niche, and sports do not determine.
Sports are niche. Pardon me.
The transgender in sports issue is extremely niche, and it
Well,
does
I
not
only bring it up to
actually,
bring up a
it's
famous
irrelevant.
figure
Hold on. It's
in
irrelevant to whether
transitioning
or not
gender.
trans people are valid. Okay. So let's back up again. All right.
Well, they're human
So,
beings. I'm not saying that they're not human beings here, Hunter. They are human beings. I recognize the fact that they're humans.
okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, I can appreciate that. But
I'm not an
gender
anti-humanist
is
here.
separate from sex. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. And similarly, we have other forms of identities that are purely in our head that we recognize as being completely valid, respectable, and we all acknowledge it.
Like what?
A sports fan, for example. I could be a fan of the New York Jets, and that could be part of my
Well,
identity.
that's a pretty big
But
straw man there, making your argument about gender. I can identify as a sports fan, which also means that I can identify as an attack helicopter. That's what
no,
you just
attack
said.
helicopter is not a gender identity, so you wouldn't
Well,
identify
no, but
as
you
that.
get my point. You know the meme, right?
No,
That's
I
why
know. Well, I
keep
know the
saying
meme
it.
from like 2011. Yeah, I don't know why you're still
Right.
using it. It's kind of dead meme. But okay,
Well,
so
I
I can
mean,
identify
considering
as. Are you?
the audience I'm talking to right now, I think I have to keep things as simple as possible.
Well, it actually speaks volumes to your own ignorance that you think that everything about this needs to be kept simple when this is actually not a very simple subject.
My own ignorance, says the
Yes.
guy who says that a mental state of being can determine truth in the world. You can
That's
think
not
it,
what I
therefore
said.
you are.
That is
You
also
think it, therefore you are.
Wait,
That's
do
what
you
you
think
said.
that you're ever a sports fan?
Oh yes, I do think I can be
Okay,
a sports
so
fan,
then
but that
by
doesn't
following
mean
that,
I
you
think
are
I
a
can be a
sport.
woman,
Hold on. Shh.
even though I'm not.
So you can think that you are a sports fan. That is an identity in your mind,
That's a
and
straw man in
and
your
you
argument.
are a sports fan. That's what proves
Okay.
the identification side of things. The same thing could be said about Christians. Being a
So
Christian
I can be
is.
poly-non-binary because I think it in my mind.
Do you notice how
Right.
like every time I'm trying to lay out like a very concise example, you just cut in with
You're
like
not
something
making
dumb?
any concise example. You're making this straw man argument right now
Do you
about
know what a
being a
straw
sports
man
fan in
is?
your mind.
Do you know what a
and
straw
then
man
make,
argument is?
yes, it's easier for you to defend people being a sports fan than it is for you to defend somebody's thinking in their mind that
I
they're a
can
woman when
identify
they're a
people
man.
thinking in their mind thinking that they're a woman just fine. I'm laying out an analogy for you to show that there are other forms of identification that are purely
much easier for you
mental
to defend
that
the
we
sports fan
respect
statement.
and value in society and don't think anything of it. That's the argument I'm
don't think
making.
anything
Second
of
of all, you making the attack helicopter meme is actually a straw man. So
Well,
careful,
here you
buddy.
go. Let's talk
Okay.
about this pedo thing
So
you were talking about on your stream,
no,
Hunter.
why do you keep
How
trying to
about the
move?
don't say gay bill?
Holy
Because you're
shit!
not
Why
making
do you
any
keep
point.
moving all over
You're
the
not
place?
making any point here, Hunter. You're saying your point was if you think it, therefore you are it. That was your point, right?
Okay.
I mean, I don't
so
know how many times
let's
I had to listen to this. I'm a sports fan in my mind crap.
wait.
Your
So
point was
how do you
if
know
I
if
think
somebody's
it
a
in my
sports fan or
mind,
not?
therefore I am it.
Can we go? Let's
So
play with this example for a little bit, okay? So if I say, "Hey, I'm a fan of the New York Jets,"
right.
would you believe me? Or if you don't, how would you go about proving me wrong?
Yes. I can be a sports fan in my mind. Therefore, I can also be a transsexual in my mind. Right.
We're talking about identity only right now. We're not talking about trans people, okay? So
Well, that's what you're saying.
try to keep your head in one argument at a time, okay? We'll get to
has been
trans
that.
people, I promise. But
Quit the pretentious act, dude.
no,
it's
I'm not
fucking
going to quit the
ridiculous.
pretentious act. You're acting like a
It's
fucking buffoon,
absolutely
okay? And I'm
ridiculous.
okay
It's
acting
very
pretentious.
condescending, Hunter.
Yes, I'm condescending to stupid
yes,
people
are
like
being very
you.
condescending.
Yeah, I know.
It's because you can't make a reasonable argument.
Because
Your
you won't
argument
let
is,
me.
I think it in my mind.
Because you won't shut the
therefore
fuck
I
up
am
and
it.
let me talk. So yeah,
I
like
think, therefore I am.
you notice that if somebody just keeps on talking nonstop, that it actually doesn't mean that the other person isn't making an argument. It means that they're not being
You notice when
allowed a
somebody's
chance to talk.
condescending and extremely pretentious, they do it because they know they're sounding ridiculous and they want to diminish the other person?
Yes, it's definitely me who sounds ridiculous in this exchange. So anyway,
It's
let me
you
go
that's
back to the
condescending and
let me go back
pretentious
to
in
the
this exchange.
analogy I was
That's for
giving,
damn
okay?
sure, Hunter.
So how do you prove somebody wrong when they say that they're a sports fan?
How do I prove somebody wrong when they're a sports fan?
Yeah, like well, let's say you don't
Why do you
believe
keep
them.
going back to this sports fan thing?
Because I'm
Like I said,
pointing
because
out
it's
to
a
you
lot
other
easier for you
forms
to
of
defend than somebody
identity
thinking
in which
their
you
mind.
cannot actually verify whether or not the person is telling the truth, because it is in fact a mental thing. It is in my mind that I identify myself as partially a sports fan. There is no way that you can prove that wrong
Well,
because
here you
it's an
go, Hunter.
identity.
Being a sports fan doesn't require having tits and a vagina in
That's
certain
sex.
chromosomes
I thought we
doesn't.
already went over the difference between sex and
Oh
gender.
my God. Oh my God,
We
man.
already went over the difference between sex and
Back to
gender.
the New Age
This
pseudoscience,
isn't
right?
New Age pseudoscience. Gender has
Yes,
existed
it
since the
is.
beginning of time, my friend.
Here you go. Again, the Don't Say Gay bill. You oppose that, right?
I'm not talking about the Don't Say Gay bill.
Well,
We're
well, well. You
talking
were talking
about
about
trans
pedos
people
earlier on your
specifically.
stream, so
Hey,
I thought I would mention
we're
it.
talking about trans people, my dude. So
Yes, I'm aware of this.
I'm not gonna stop with this analogy until you acknowledge what I'm saying, which is if
Well,
I
what you're
identify.
saying is ridiculous. I
I know,
acknowledge
yeah,
that.
just keep saying that. It
That's
becomes
for
true. It's
certain.
very cute. So,
I
again,
know, right?
if
Just
I
keep
say
telling
that
your
I
lies and it
identify
becomes
as a
true. It's very
sports fan,
cute,
there's
right?
no way that you can prove me wrong because we recognize that it is a form of identity that
Oh
cannot
my
be questioned, essentially. Because even if, let's say I've never gone to a New York Jets game, let's say I've never even held up a New York Jets sign, there's no evidence at all. It doesn't change the fact that in my mind, I could still really like the New York Jets and be a fan of them.
Identifying based on a hobby is the same thing as identifying based on gender, is what
No,
you're
it's
trying
not a
to say.
one-to-one comparison. I'm talking
Well, then
about
why are you
forms of
making the
because I'm
comparison
trying
if
to
it's
walk
such
you
a fucking
through a form of
reach of a comparison to make?
identification.
It's such a reach of a comparison to make, yet you keep making it.
Yes, because you
Why?
won't because
Do you have
I'm
a
not able
better
to get through it
comparison to
with
make?
you, and
One
this is
that
actually
one that is more comparable to the actual subject? Well,
sure.
I
I'll give you
identify as a truck driver. That means you can't prove that I'm not a truck driver, which means that I
no,
could
because a
identify
truck
as
driver
any
usually
gender I want
involves
to
other
be.
forms of actions that would imply that whether or not you are in fact a truck driver.
Well,
But when
I
we come to
identify as a truck
intrinsic
driver. Can you
identity,
prove
you
that I'm not?
cannot.
Can
So
you prove that I'm not a truck driver, Hunter?
no,
No, you can't. Right.
I can't. But that's irrelevant.
Which is what you've been saying this whole time. I identify as a New York Jets fan. Can you prove that I'm not?
I'm walking you through forms of identity that we
Can you prove
accept,
that I'm not a New
even though.
York Jets fan, Hunter?
Hold on. I'm walking you through forms of identity that cannot actually be disproven. Same thing could be done with religions. We give special legal protection to Christians and Muslims and whatnot. We protect people on the basis of their religious identity, right? And even if I've never gone to church, I could still be a Christian. That could still be
I
a
don't know
part of
about
my
protecting
identity.
Christians. We protect Muslims in America, though, but not. I wouldn't say we protect Christians.
Okay, I know that
Christians
you
are fair game, open to
have. Wait,
criticism.
no, you
You
can't.
can
You
criticize
can't
Christians on
discriminate
any
somebody on the
platform.
basis of their religion.
I'll go to Twitter. You can say whatever you want about Christians.
Do you think that
It's
somebody
fair
making a
game.
mean tweet is akin to discrimination?
Well, I mean, you can't say these things about Muslims on there. Just saying.
Do you think that somebody saying something mean about you on Twitter is discrimination?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I don't know why you brought that up. Stop that.
Well,
Okay.
well, I don't
So
know
let's
why
go
you keep
back
bringing
once
up
again.
sports fans, Hunter.
No,
but
no,
you keep
because
doing
the
it, so
reason I
stop
keep
that.
going back to this is because I'm trying to walk you through the way that identity works, okay?
Well, you're trying to walk me through some real simpleton shit, is what it sounds like. to
Really,
me.
if it's so simple,
can
then why are you
identify
having
as
such
a
a hard
sports
time with it?
fan.
If it's so
I
simple,
can
why are you having such a hard
identify
time
as
getting through this?
I can identify as a sports fan, which means that I can also identify as any gender I want, because you can't disprove it. Even though I have a penis, you can't
That's not what
disprove that I
determines whether or not
identify
you are
as
a man or
woman.
a woman.
It doesn't, huh?
No.
Well, it does.
This is
What
exactly,
does?
see how this is why I gave you the analogy before with the padded room? Because this shows that it's not actually the biology that determines the gender expression and the gender role. That is the societally constructed thing. And since it is a socially constructed
Well, according to
identity,
your
you can
example, the
identify
human
with them.
species would go extinct if you stuck them all in these rooms, because none of them would procreate. Because they wouldn't know, right?
Holy
They
shit.
wouldn't know to procreate, right?
You are, I'm actually kind of
they
sad
wouldn't
for
know to
you.
procreate if they were in the padded room, right, Hunter? So the
Okay,
whole
hey,
human
Thanos,
species would
calm
go
down, okay?
extinct.
Let's go back again. We're gonna keep on going through this, okay, until I'm able to
Oh
get
my
it through your
God.
thick skull. So
What time
one,
is it?
the
Yeah, about
padded
another 10
room
minutes, so
analogy.
make it quick.
I laid out the padded room analogy as a hypothetical to show you that, and you have already conceded this, that if
I
you
haven't
took
conceded
somebody with,
anything.
yes, you did.
Thank
That
you
if you
very much.
take
What I
somebody with,
concede?
I'm gonna mute you if you don't shut up, okay?
Oh, I know you're going to mute me, because I planned on that before even joining.
Because you
this,
won't stop
getting muted and
talking,
getting kicked.
and I need to
Well,
actually
you
get
won't
through my
stop
argument.
talking, Hunter.
You
You're
keep
making
bringing
the
up
sports
random
fan
shit, dude.
analogy. You're bringing up the sports fan analogy.
Yes.
Like it's fucking proving some kind of point for you.
It does prove my point,
I'm a
and the
Jets
fact that you're
fan,
not
which
able to
means that
get
I
it
can
shows
also
how
be a
dumb you are.
polytrans, bilateral, unisexual. You know, I mean, like, it's ridiculous, dude. I mean, do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Seriously?
Okay. Very good argument. Let's go back again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
the
very mean.
hypothetical that I'm laying out is
The fucking
only to
condescending and
indicate that
pretentious
it is not the
oxymoron.
biology that dictates the gender. This is why it's
Okay.
so crucial to go through this hypothetical, because it shows that biology and gender are separate things. So again, if I took somebody with a penis, or if I took somebody with a vagina, and I put them into a padded room since birth, and they grew up in that padded room, it's very unlikely that the person with breasts and a vagina would randomly decide that their favorite color is pink, that they actually want to wear their hair long, that they should wear dresses, and that they have a certain role in society. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I think it'd be hard for them to adapt, but I think once you introduce them to society, they would very quickly adapt. Just like a baby does when it's in its mother's care and it doesn't really know anything, and then you put it into society and it adapts to society.
So you see what you're saying right now, right? Is that gender is in fact socially constructed, and the reason that people
Okay,
have
if there's no humans on the planet, by Hunter's logic, which is the premise you're presenting, is basically there's nobody else on the planet but you. Yeah, you wouldn't know anything if you were the only motherfucker on the planet.
All right, great, perfect, excellent. Yes, you're right. So because it is socially constructed, it requires exposure to society and social roles in order for you to literally learn your gender.
Like, look at the reaching you have to do to make this argument.
How am I
Basically,
reaching?
you
You
have
just
to-
made the, you
have
just
to be the only
acknowledged it.
person- No, you have to be the only person on the planet for this scenario you're presenting to actually play out in any way.
It's not
shape,
about
or
a
form.
scenario playing out. It's about presenting a hypothetical that shows the difference between sex and gender. And you just acknowledged that, yes, a baby learns certain things from their mother, including how to act as their gender. So if you have somebody with a penis, there's already a social role set up for that individual, which is, you like the color blue, little Johnny.
Did you assign
like
your
to play
child a gender? Hunter?
You like I mean, technically, yeah, everybody does. Gender is learned.
Oh, you
and
didn't let your
assigned.
child discover their own gender, you mean? You mean you introduced
And we're
information
back
to your own
to a
child?
straw man. It's very cute.
How is that a straw man, Hunter?
No,
I'm talking
because
about
you're not
your own
making an
child
argument. Like,
here. Of course I'm making an argument. You didn't let your child discover their own gender, Hunter. You forced gender on them, right? Isn't that what you're saying? Isn't that
no,
what you've been saying this
that's
whole
not what
time?
I'm saying. I'm saying that
You
gender
didn't
is
give
socially
them that luxury
constructed.
of being in an
So-
information vacuum so that they could learn on their own.
So how are you born with gender roles?
How am I born with a gender role?
Yeah.
The thing between my legs, for starters.
So does the thing between your legs mean that you are going to like the color blue and like trucks and enjoy doing things that are usually considered boyish?
This is non-factors. Blue and trucks. This is nonsense.
This is gender, my dude. That's why I'm
This
saying
has nothing to
sex.
do with
That's why
survival of the species, procreation.
it doesn't matter if it has anything to do with procreation. What the fuck? We're talking about gender being socially constructed versus
clearly, gender,
sex
in
being
regards to
biological.
modern age pseudoscience has nothing to do with procreation. I think we can both agree on that.
Oh yeah, that's great. So
Right.
yeah,
It
of
has
course,
nothing
gender
to-
has nothing to do
As
with
a matter of
procreation.
fact, it has to do with the opposite of procreation, because the more this kind of pseudoscience is introduced in society and mainstream, the less procreation happens.
So how is it that when you're born with a penis, how does that determine your gender? What's like a gender that's determined by having a penis? Could you walk me through that a bit?
Male. There you go.
Oh,
I don't think I need to explain that one too
wait,
much.
what's
male.
okay? So if you're male, it's more likely that you'll identify as a man. Sure. So what does that mean to be a man?
What does that mean to be a man?
Yeah. What does it mean?
It means that you have a penis and you can produce semen once you're of age.
So that's the only thing it means to be a man.
Well, what else are you looking for here, Hunter? I mean,
Do you think that there are
you
some
can
social?
you'll probably get prostate cancer at some point in your life.
Okay. Do you think that there is something more than just you're a boy because you have a penis? Do you think there's
Let me
other
ask you this.
expectations and roles that go along with people with penises?
Societal, sure.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
going
Yeah.
to
So
work,
this is good. We're getting somewhere.
paying the bills, that kind of thing.
We're getting
Now, let
somewhere.
me ask
Okay.
you this.
So
Let me ask you a
because you
question
have a
now,
penis,
Hunter.
do you see what you just did there? Because you have a penis, that means that you need to be the one paying the bills. That is a gender role. There's nothing intrinsic or biological about having a penis, meaning that you then need to pay the bills.
Well, a man is
Society
supposed to
has
be the head of the
determined that
household,
since you
right?
are a man, since you have a penis, this means you're a man. This means you're a leader. This means you have to be tough. This means you have to be the provider. These are all socially constructed roles.
Hey, let me ask you this real fast.
Is it just kind of going through your...
Have you ever been religious in your life?
Yes.
Are you currently an atheist?
No, I'm agnostic.
Would you call yourself secular?
Yes.
Well, secular is the kind word for people who don't like to actually call themselves full-blown atheists. But I just ask because you see people who are quote-unquote secular and atheists making these kind of arguments all the time. I just wanted to put it out there, you know.
That doesn't change anything, and me being an atheist doesn't mean that my arguments are wrong in any way. So do you recognize then that the expectation to be a provider or to be tough or be strong or whatever, we have socially applied those to people with penises?
Let me ask you something.
Wait. No. You're not asking me anything till I get a yes or no answer from this.
Male to female transgender, will they at some point in their life require a prostate exam?
This is sex. This is not gender.
Transgender, will they require a prostate exam at some point in their life?
If somebody is biologically,
yes or no?
Yeah, if somebody's biologically male and they identify as a woman, they still have the biology of a male. So yes.
So it's like the old shampoo commercial. You make me feel like a natural woman. That kind of thing, right? You can feel like a woman even though you're a man. Sometimes I feel like a nut. Sometimes I don't.
Have you ever considered trying out for American Idol? You have quite the singing voice.
I told you I got a voice for radio and a face for one as well.
You're obviously using a voice-altering thing. It's pretty obvious at this point. But that doesn't even matter because it doesn't take away from the fact of the absurdity of your arguments, which you haven't really made any. So I'm being a little bit too charitable, assuming you even made an argument.
That male to female transgenders will at one point need a prostate exam in their life.
Because that's sex, not gender, my dude. Why are you so obsessed with prostates? You realize that's sex, not gender, right?
I realize that's a man. Hunter. That's what I realized.
No, that's a male. That is not a man. You realize that if we're having this conversation, you have to be willing to get technical with. You realize that when we're having these kind of conversations, you need to get really technical with your terms, okay? I recognize that colloquially, if somebody says you're a man or you're a male, it's kind of the same thing. But when we're talking about...
Do you know who Jazz Jennings is?
When we're talking about sex and gender, we have to get technical. So when you say man, that is gender. Male is sexual. So...
The Penn State swimmer, Hunter. Will the Penn State swimmer require a prostate exam at some point in them's life?
Why do you think that this is some kind of an own? Are you so desperate right now? Also, you keep conflating sex and gender again, so I don't know how to help you.
We're talking about people who identify as women by their quote-unquote gender identity.
Listen, dude, I understand you're probably obsessed with the prostate because a trans person fucked you in the ass or something, because that's what it seems like.
Oh, come on, that's some projection.
So at the end of the day, I will say this: you are far more. Hold on, hey,
talking about me getting fucked.
Shut the fuck up for a minute, okay? I don't need to hear any more of your robot voice.
When are you going to make the coming out
once
of the closet
again,
video?
You are proving that you are actually far more delusional than any trans person. Congratulations, you're extremely stupid, and you're apparently so desperate to hide your identity that you have to use a voice-altering thing. It's very sad.
We've both come to the agreement that male to female transgenders will at some point in their life require a prostate
That's
exam.
sex, not gender. But if I were you, I would go... Hold on, if I were you, I would go get a prostate exam now because clearly you have some kind of ass cancer, okay? Fuck you. Well, that went well. Did you hang up? Yes, I hung up. Where's this other cuck? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.